Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Thought Leaders. I'm your host, Chris Shang, and today we've got Sri Krishna, who is the co-founder and CEO of Factors AI. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Very honored and happy to be here. I'm one of the founders at Factors.ai. We are a three-member founding team, Aravind, myself, and Praveen Das. What we do is very interesting. We are a signal-based go-to-market platform. So what we mean by that is like we aggregate first-party, second-party, and third-party signals across the entire B2B buyer journey, right from ads to website to marketing automation, all the way up to CRM and product signals, analyze which companies and which prospects are showing interest, activate them across multiple channels, including email and LinkedIn ads, and most importantly, attribute to identify which campaigns are working, which set of companies are working well, which set of companies are not working well, so that you can iterate on campaigns in real time, so that you can generate pipeline, not just more pipeline, but more pipeline efficiently. So that's our promise to our customers. We are working with 300 plus customers, predominantly in technology and technology services, and growing rapidly. We have almost like 6x in the last 1.5 years. So that's our growth story.
Got it. And what would you say is like the kinds of companies you guys tend to focus on? Are there specific verticals, or is it pretty agnostic?
Yeah. Currently, of course, one of our clear ICPs is companies which spend on LinkedIn ads. And within that, also companies which are also software services companies or technology services companies, which is there. So whether it can be companies like Freshworks or a ChargeBee, etc., or companies which are IT services companies, can be like TCS or Infosys, Capgemini, etc. So they are also there. So technology and technology services companies are the ones which we focus on, and those who spend on LinkedIn.
Fair enough. Okay. And real quick here, kind of before we dive into all the Factors AI journey and why you started the business, tell us a little bit about your background. I see here, at least like, you've been in finance and investment banking side. You've been into the biz dev side of things. You've also been, dabbled in a few, I think, like entrepreneurial endeavors before you ultimately did Factors AI as well. But talk us through what those previous chapters of your career look like, and why the interest in technology.
Of course. I was born in Chennai. It's a southern city in India. And from there, I did schooling here and then engineering. That's where I met my current co-founder, Arvind Murthy. And post that, I went for an MBA. So more of a standard career path where like I was like told like it's good to do engineering because it gets the good jobs. Then from engineering, you go and do an MBA because it gets you a better job or a more pay. So I went with that line. But after some level of like kind of like running the treadmill or like the rat race across investment banking and general management roles, I realized like this is not something which I fully enjoy. And technology is exciting for multiple reasons. Technology actually accelerates the growth in economy. So that's something like you are naturally part of the overall growth in the world. And more importantly, it's a kind of a frontier. You are actually pushing at the frontiers. So when I joined InMobi in 2013, mobile and Android ecosystem was just starting to explode. And over the period of like next 4-5 years, you could see like almost multiple mega unicorns or decacorns coming in from India, thanks to the whole mobile use cases. So that was one of the most exciting phases, and being at the forefront of technology. And after that, once you see that for a couple of years, you are forever kind of like attached to it. So there's no way to look back. But technology is the place to be if you are kind of like looking at rapidly growing businesses or going for a kind of like being in a bungee jump kind of a phase.
Fair enough. And ultimately, what led you to deciding to jump into entrepreneurship? Specifically with Factors AI.
Actually, it flows in from my time at InMobi. InMobi was India's first unicorn in early 2012. SoftBank invested in InMobi much before the whole Vision Fund, etc. SoftBank first invested in InMobi, and it became the first unicorn. And it was in the mobile ad tech space. And that's where we were working with multiple startups in the early days running their mobile app install campaigns and scaling them up over a period of time. And naturally, a huge entrepreneurial energy from multiple sides. One, you are working with early stage startups across the board. You were also working in one of the first unicorns in India. And the combination of this brought you in touch with multiple entrepreneurs, and also within the company also had like some of the more entrepreneurial managers in the first place. So all this combined to face like where somewhere down the line, myself and my other co-founder Praveen Das, both of us were colleagues at InMobi. We decided like we have to start up at some point in time. Just that around 2019, I look back on the clock, like I was just about 35, and this is the time to just jump in and start up. If not now, then was the question which moved in. And I think the pandemic just hit as we quit InMobi, and we hustled, found a way to set up the company, and started with Factors.ai in around August 2020. And now it's almost more than 4 years now. That's the story. So in a sense, working in a startup actually, and also India's first unicorn. Now there are more than 100 plus unicorns in India, but that's what something pushed you into actually getting to startup.
Got it. Fair enough. And then, obviously going from working within a startup as an employee versus going and becoming a founder is two very different things. What were some of the expectations kind of going in when you guys started Factors AI? And what has been some of those surprises or things that met those expectations?
There was a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
Come to that. But one of the key things which we had was like, thanks to the previous startup entrepreneur, startup management experience in a sense, startups help you or is one of the best places for employees to have their careers in, at least significant part of their careers, whether it's early stage or even mid stage. It's a great place to be because one, you get to have direct ownership, and mostly you are kind of managing your own module. So in a sense, you get a kind of an intrapreneurship kind of experience. So you kind of become self-sufficient and responsible to your own P&L. So that's a massive thing which startups help you learn. So that was a kind of a good kicker which we had early in our careers. But once you drive your own business, a lot of ifs and buts comes into place. In a startup, you have someone giving you the direction, which is the founders and CEO, which is there when you're working there. They are giving the direction. You know exactly what you are trying to sell. And you don't worry about kind of like the vision, what it will be over the next 3-4 years, how will you get the funding for it, how are you going to build it in the right way, etc. What you're just focusing on is like executing very well. But as a founder, you have to execute. But most importantly, you also have to figure out like whether you've got the direction right. Are you going in the right places? What you're building, is it something which is going for a $10 million economy? Or is it a 100 million TAM? Or is it a multi-billion dollar TAM? Those are the kind of things which come up every single time. And there have been late night 3:30 a.m. where you wake up sweating, like kind of like worried like what you will do over the next 3 months, whether you will be able to raise a funding round or whether you are going in the right direction, how will you get to the first 100 customers, etc. So those are the things which kind of like push you towards the edge when you're running your own startup, which you would never experience when you are working in a startup. But that's also the whole ride is for. It's exciting and it's fun.
Got it. And has there been any like specific hats that you've had taken on that you weren't sure, or I guess like, yeah, any hats that you've taken on that you're like either have a love or a hate relationship with that you never expected to take on?
So one thing which we realized is like when we started up as a team, we were completely complementary.
Yeah.
I used to run business and business development for quite a long time. So sales was something natural which I took up. Praveen, my other co-founder, was running product at InMobi. So naturally, he got into product design and other parts. And Aravind, my other co-founder, is from the tech side. He was ex-Google. He also had a previous startup, sold it to Freshworks. So he was completely on the tech side. But what you realize when you started up is like everyone has to sell. Everyone has to sell not just for your customers or something. You have to sell for your investors. You have to sell for your employees. So each and every part of what you do is fundamentally comes across in some form of selling. That is like you have to evangelize. You have to talk about what you're doing. You have to find ways to keep pushing or like kind of like being better at every single day at what you're selling and how you are actually generating revenue. So that's something which I didn't think all of us together signed up. In a sense, like we were thinking like, yeah, you will do selling and I will do the product and we were thinking of it in silos, but in some sense, all of this comes together. And vice versa, it also brings other functions also together. If you're going to sell, you also think about like, what should the product be? What should the UX be? What should the technology stack be? Are you doing the right thing so that you are going to be consistently selling over the next couple of years as well? So a lot of other questions also come up. And in a sense, you grow as a person, you learn a lot as a person. At the same time, you get to do a lot of uncomfortable things which you are not originally signed up for, as I said. Yeah. Sales is one of the things across, and not just customer level selling. It's more like social selling. It's more like evangelization. It's more like sales at a very different level. Or like fundamentally living sales as every part of life. I'll give you one example. Once I was just in a car and I almost fell asleep a little bit because of jet lag and other this thing. And someone woke up and I started pitching the product and other this thing. And that's something which consistently happens once you become a startup founder, because like, I mean, it's a kind of like a reflex memory where like you consistently just keep thinking about your product and what you do.
Absolutely. Interesting. And so walk us through kind of like that journey with Factors AI, the first few months of like going from, hey, we need to go build this, from ideation to piecing together the team to getting together like, those first few lines of the code to getting to MVP. And how long was it from like ideation to being in market that you started to feel some semblance of a pull within the market, that you had like product market fit?
So ours was a very interesting story. Initially, we did the rookie mistake of like, we were passionate about analytics. We started building before actually talking to prospects and customers. Then we started building and then we tried to sell. And obviously, it didn't really work, because what you are trying to build and what you're passionate about is not something everyone or anything will naturally be willing to pay for. So then you got back to the second line, like what is something which you have built or you can build, will people pay for? So then you started discovering the market. Then you figured out like there are important pieces within the market. Then you started realizing like how hard is MarTech. Second, then you have to figure out like what are the white spaces within market where you as founding team and your go-to-market fit can actually work. That's a very, very important thing. You can still find white spaces within the system, but it's also more important for you to figure out like as a founding team, are you very good to capitalize on the white space? Second, as a go-to-market team, are you able to actually capture that white space very, very well? So that's the second level question which we got into, which was the initial phase. So first we started with analytics, then we figured out just plain analytics doesn't work. Then we figured out there is a very, very clear white space for B2B. And because B2B was kind of couple of years behind B2C, there were very, very good attribution products on the B2C space, like AppsFlyer or Has Offers and Branch.io, etc. In B2B, there weren't very significant attribution products. And it was natural to see that B2B is also going the way of B2C in terms of digital marketing. Hence, multi-channel digital marketing would require an attribution solution. So we decided on attribution. Then we actually, once you get into attribution, you see how important and difficult it is. And you also see what are the kind of adjacencies around it. Attribution is great to tell like what is the kind of which campaigns are working, which segments are working, what is working, what's not working. But more importantly, you also need to do action in the first place. So you enable running action in LinkedIn ads and then figuring out the rest of the part, like which parts are working, and then iterating it back is where we found a very, very clear white space. This whole journey took us almost 3 years.
Wow.
So it was not a success overnight. We started with something which we are passionate about, learned the hard way that doesn't work, then figured out white spaces around it, then figured out adjacencies around it, which makes it very, very important and kind of something where people would consistently pay for, where you have a unique positioning, where it's not just an attribution, but you do action plus attribution so that you are able to prove the ROI on real-time basis. And then suddenly growth came, which went to almost like 6x over the last 1.5 years. And now we are consistently growing as well. So, but this 1.5 year success had almost maybe, let's say like 2.5 years of pain behind it.
Fair enough. And now, how, I guess like within the SaaS space, we've seen a lot of changes, I would say, in the past couple of years, right? So, we were in this bull run uh everybody kind of like buying out of FOMO and buying the nice to haves and all these things, but we've seen a little bit of a pullback. I'm just curious if that's like if you guys have seen anything around that. How has it changed in terms of your go-to-market? I feel like there's definitely attention scarcity because there's been so many things that's flooded the market within the past few years or the
Yeah.
past decade. And so like how are you guys driving that trust, driving that awareness?
No, naturally, market has really changed over the last 2 years. We are no longer in the ZIRP era. There isn't something like money is available for everyone to buy anything. Good to have as a product doesn't work. So the effect of that is in multiple levels. One is what you build should be something which is really needed and where people will pay for on a consistent basis. Second, how you build. You have to have a very clear lean team in terms of technology, design, and everyone else in terms of how much money you're going to spend at each and every level for you to do it. Third, most importantly, how you market. We come back with like a very, very strict marketing budget, including inbound and also our own social marketing so that we can generate a lot of inbound interest rather than kind of like expansively hiring a kind of a 5 people or 10 people sales team and then having a lot of expenses or fixed costs behind us. We look at brand building first so that it naturally creates product awareness. It also makes it far more easier for us to identify, bring in, and also close deals faster. And that has also then triggered back into like how we are able to get in money faster and build back into the product and also the stack, which is there. So that is something which we have very clearly seen over the last 1.5 years. We have basically tightened our own belts and it has worked wonders for us. Because once you can actually operate at this kind of a motion where like you can efficiently build things and also take it to market and consistently see value being delivered, there is no going back. You know that you are on a path to profitability or whatever additional investment is more of capex investments where like you are building for structural strength. You're not building for go-to-market strength.
Got it. Interesting. And then what do you imagine like, or what are you guys preemptively thinking in terms of, how the landscape might change with with how fast AI is coming out?
So primarily some of the new things which are happening is like are what we have been consistently doing is factors.ai was looking at supervised learning models to see identify paths within the buyer journey and then identifying which accounts are showing interest and then activating them. But thanks to the whole LLM and a lot of models coming around, both across whether it's Anthropic or Llamas and ChatGPT, which is there, it's like now you can actually query the data in natural language and bring out insights. And you can start building agentic workflows around it where like you can substitute or give a co-pilot to marketers to run or build a lot of grunt work so that they can actually do maybe 3x or 5x with what they were doing with the same time which they were currently spending on. So which makes them a lot more efficient and also makes them a lot more, gives them back a lot more time to think about creative part of the marketing work, which is there. So what we are building out over the next 1 year or so is like agentic workflows, which will serve as co-pilots to marketers in B2B teams. So right from building audiences, running campaigns, getting analytics and reports at the snap of a button or even a query which is there, and then also iterating on what is working, what's not working, so that they can actually figure out like which copies are working, which creators are working, and make sure there is no wastage of spends, at the same time much higher ROI from their marketing investments and delivering better. So these are the things which we are building. But still, as we speak, it's still early days. We have to still figure out like what other use cases within this we can do better. And fundamentally, SaaS is a depth products where like you go more and more deeper for a particular persona and a particular industry. That's where you actually see real value. So you are at maybe like I'm at a pretty shallow waters currently, and there's still a lot more for me to actually work this, make this, to work on it for us to work, for us to get better. That's the way how I'm seeing. But AI is making quite a few interesting kind of like opening up new avenues for technology companies to capture on. And this would actually, the nimble companies or the startup ones which don't have much tech debt are the ones which are actually going to do really well in this era compared to the ones which are more legacy products.
Fair enough. And kind of like last question here as we round up on time is just, from your perspective with where you guys with Factors AI as a growing startup, where do you imagine yourself and or the company in the next few years here, right? Like, I think what is it about the future of Factors that really, like, what is it, I guess, kind of fulfilling in terms of your personal growth, your personal, motivations?
Cool. Actually, we are in a very interesting space. We solve for a very, very clear problem around B2B marketing in a clear white space around LinkedIn ads, Google first channel ads, Google ads, and across with partnerships with G2, LinkedIn, and multiple data providers, solving for both action and attribution so that B2B companies are able to generate pipeline efficiently. This problem is a very hard problem. And more importantly, it's a very important problem for a lot of B2B companies. So we are in a cusp where like we are kind of like can serve 80,000 plus B2B companies, which are running marketing to drive pipeline to see what we can, how we can scale them up. And that's something which we have come to this space. Now I can very clearly see I can build $100 million plus company or a potential unicorn here. So that's something which is very, very personally looking out. I can sleep in peace on a daily basis. That's something which is there. But apart from the monetary or even like company scaling perspective, as a founder, or more importantly, being in a startup teaches you a lot of things. One thing is it makes you a great listener. Not just listening to team or people around you, but also listening to market signals. Whether it's a ZIRP era or post-ZIRP era, whether it's your product has market fit or not, whether how people perceive the product, how the people want to use the product, what is the value prop, etc. So one makes you very, very good at listening. Second thing is humility. In terms of like lot of things can go wrong and a lot of things can go right just because you are in the right place in the right time. And several people have actually kind of like, you can see so many journeys, founder journeys, which is there, and it makes you a lot more humble over a period of time. And lastly, it's gratitude. At every point in time, even as simple as like just last week to right from the first time we started, so many people have taken out time to give us advice, free help, or multiple times picking us up from whatever doldrums which we are there to actually pull us through. So this is the founder's journey is a kind of like fills you up with gratitude. And overall, it makes all these three aspects makes you a far better person, both within your own family and also externally as well. So I'm grateful for the founder journey, and I guess it's rewarding in multiple ways.
Very cool. On that note, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your journey, sharing what you guys are building at Factors AI, and just kind of like where the direction of the company is and where you see the opportunities going.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity.